Imagine walking through a vast, quiet landscape. The ground beneath your feet is soft, damp, and dark. This is an Irish peat bog, a place where time itself seems to slow down. For centuries, people have worked these bogs, cutting the peat for fuel. One day a man named Jack Conway was doing just that in County Meath. His spade struck something hard. It wasn't a rock. It was something pale, waxy, and strangely out of place in the deep, dark earth. He had unearthed a mystery, a message from a distant past, sent forward through time by the unique chemistry of the bog. What Jack Conway had found was a massive lump of ancient butter. It weighed over 10 kilograms, a significant amount even by today's standards. But this wasn't fresh butter from a local farm. This butter was old, incredibly old. Scientists would later estimate its age to be around 2,000 years. It had rested silently in its dark, watery cradle since the time of the Roman Empire, long before many of the castles and towns of modern Ireland even existed. The discovery was a cosmic whisper from our ancestors, a tangible link to the daily lives of people who walked this same land millennia ago. This single discovery connects us directly to a forgotten world. Think about it. 2,000 years ago, someone made this butter. They took the time to churn it, shape it, and then carry it out into the bog. They deliberately placed it deep within the peat, consigning it to the earth. Why? What was their intention? Were they hiding it from invaders, or was it an offering to the gods they believed inhabited these mystical landscapes? The simple act of finding this lump of ancient fat opens up a universe of questions about the beliefs, the fears, and the hopes of ancient Irish people. The bog itself is the hero of this story. It's a natural time machine. The conditions within a peat bog are highly acidic, very cold, and extremely low in oxygen. These are terrible conditions for the tiny microorganisms, the bacteria and fungi that normally cause things to decay and rot. For organic materials like wood, leather, and even butter, the bog acts as a perfect preservative. It essentially freezes them in time, allowing us to find them thousands of years later, remarkably intact. Jack Conway's discovery wasn't just a lump of old dairy, it was a perfectly preserved piece of history, delivered to us by the cosmos' own preservation system right here on Earth. So, what exactly is this strange substance we call bog butter? At its core, it's a product of the cosmos, transformed by human hands and preserved by planetary geology. Bog butter is an ancient waxy material primarily found in the peat bogs of Ireland and Scotland. When we analyze it, we find two main types. Some samples are clearly dairy products made from the milk of cows. They are, in essence, very, very old butter. This connects us to the pastoral world of our ancestors, to their herds of cattle roaming the green hills, and to the fundamental human activity of turning milk into a long-lasting food source. However, other samples of bog butter tell a different story. Chemical analysis reveals that they are not made from milk fat at all. Instead, they are composed of tallow, which is rendered animal fat, likely from sheep or cattle. This suggests that the term butter might be a little misleading. Perhaps a better term would be bog deposit or ancient preserved fat. This distinction is crucial. It opens up the possibility that these deposits had different purposes. Dairy butter might have been stored for food, while tallow might have been used for other things like making candles, lubricating leather, or even for ritualistic purposes we can only guess at. The transformation of these fats over millennia is a fascinating chemical journey. Over hundreds or thousands of years buried in the bog, the original fat molecules undergo a process called adipocere formation. This is the same process that can sometimes occur to bodies buried in wet, oxygen-free environments. The fats break down and then reform into a new, stable, waxy substance. This is why bog butter looks and feels more like a hard cheese or a lump of soap than the soft, creamy butter we know today. It has lost its familiar texture but has gained an extraordinary longevity. The containers in which this butter is found are just as fascinating as the butter itself. They are time capsules within a time capsule. Many discoveries have been made inside wooden vessels like kegs, buckets, or bowls beautifully crafted by ancient hands. Others have been found wrapped in animal hides or protected by layers of tree bark. These containers tell us about the woodworking skills and the resourcefulness of ancient people. They didn't have plastic tubs or foil wrap. They used the materials of their world, wood, bark, and hide, to protect their valuable goods, creating a package designed to last through the ages. To understand bog butter, we must journey back in time and imagine how it was made. The process would have started with the most fundamental element of a farming society, milk. For dairy-based bog butter, Ancient farmers would have first milked their cows. This was a daily, seasonal rhythm, a deep connection between humans and their livestock. The milk, rich in fat, was the raw material, the cosmic dust from which their creation would be formed. They wouldn't have had modern milking machines or sterile stainless steel tanks. This was a hands-on, earthy process steeped in tradition and practical knowledge passed down through generations. The next step was churning. The milk, or more likely the cream skimmed from the top, would be agitated until the fat globules clumped together, separating from the liquid buttermilk. This could have been done in a variety of ways. Perhaps they used a simple plunger in a wooden churn, a back-and-forth motion that slowly, magically, transformed liquid into solid. Or maybe they used a goatskin bag, rocking it or shaking it until the butter formed. It was hard physical work, but the result was a high-energy, valuable food source that could be stored for longer than fresh milk. They might have also added salt, a precious commodity, to help with preservation. Once the butter was churned and the excess buttermilk was washed away, it was ready for its long slumber. The ancient buttermaker would have packed the fresh, pale butter into a prepared container. This could be a hollowed-out log, a carefully constructed wooden keg, or a simple wrapping of animal hide. They would have pressed it down firmly, removing any air pockets. This was a critical step. Air contains oxygen, and oxygen is the fuel for the microorganisms of decay. By packing it tightly, they were beginning the preservation process, preparing their butter for its journey into the anoxic world of the bog. The final act was the burial. The person would have carried their heavy, precious bundle out into the bog, a landscape that was both a resource and a place of spiritual significance. They would have chosen a spot, perhaps one known only to their family, and dug deep into the wet peat. Placing the container into the dark, cool earth, they would have covered it over, leaving the bog's unique chemistry to work its slow, silent magic. They were, in effect, collaborating with the cosmos, using the natural properties of their environment to create something that could outlast empires. The discovery of bog butter is not a singular event. It's a recurring theme in the story of Irish archaeology. Over the past 2 centuries, more than 500 instances of bog butter have been documented across the country. These finds are not concentrated in one area but are scattered across the island, from the Midlands to the coast. This widespread distribution tells us that the practice of burying butter in bogs was not a strange, isolated custom of one small tribe. It was a common and important part of life for many different communities across ancient Ireland for a very long period of time. Each discovery adds a new pixel to our picture of the past. Consider the find in 2009 in County Kildare. A massive 34-kilogram keg of butter was unearthed, housed in a beautifully crafted wooden vessel. Radiocarbon dating placed it at an astonishing 3,000 years old. This find pushed back the timeline of the practice, showing us that people were burying butter in bogs during the Bronze Age. It connects the practice to a time of metal workers and monument builders, a sophisticated society with complex beliefs, and a well-established agricultural system. The sheer size of the deposit hints at a great feast or a significant community effort. Another famous example was found in 2013 by a turf cutter in County Offaly. This time the butter was not in a wooden keg but was contained within a meter-long wicker basket or sheath. It weighed nearly 45 kilograms and was estimated to be an incredible 5,000 years old. This discovery transports us even further back, to the Neolithic period, the time of Ireland's first farmers. It suggests that this tradition is as old as farming itself on the island. The use of a wicker container also gives us a glimpse into the weaving and crafting skills of these early peoples, using flexible plant fibers to create functional objects. These are not just isolated curiosities, they are data points that allow us to map a forgotten cultural landscape. By plotting the locations of these finds, archaeologists can start to understand ancient territories, trade routes, and ritual sites. The presence of bog butter can indicate areas of intense dairy farming or places that held special spiritual significance. Each lump of waxy fat pulled from the dark peat is a pin on a map of a lost world, helping us to navigate the lives and landscapes of our most distant ancestors. The bogs are not empty wastelands, they are vast living archives of human history. The single greatest question that hangs over every lump of bog butter is, why? Why would people take a valuable food source, something that required significant effort to produce, and bury it in the ground? There is no single simple answer. Instead, there are several compelling theories, and the truth may be a combination of them all. The universe of human motivation is complex, and the reasons for this ancient practice were likely just as varied and nuanced. We are peering back across an immense gulf of time, trying to understand the logic of a world very different from our own. One of the most practical and widely accepted theories is that it was a form of refrigeration. Before the invention of electric fridges, people had to be clever about preserving food. The cool, low-oxygen and high-acid environment of a bog is perfect for stopping spoilage. People may have buried their butter in the summer months to be retrieved later in the year when fresh food was scarce. It was a natural larder, a way of banking surplus against the lean times of winter. In this view, the bog was simply a tool, a giant, earth-fast refrigerator used for long-term food storage. Another powerful explanation moves from the practical to the spiritual. Bogs were often seen as mystical places in the ancient Celtic world. They were boundaries between the world of the living and the other world, home to gods, goddesses, and spirits. Burying a valuable substance like butter could have been a religious act, an offering to these deities. It might have been a prayer for a good harvest, for the health of their cattle, or for protection for the community. In this context, the butter was not meant to be retrieved. It was a gift to the gods, a transaction with the supernatural forces that they believed governed their world. A third possibility combines the practical with the social. Butter was a sign of wealth and status. Burying a large quantity of it could have been a form of tax or tribute paid to a local chieftain or king. The bog might have served as a neutral territory or a central collection point for these dues. Alternatively, it could have been buried for safekeeping during times of war or social unrest. If raiders were coming, a family's most valuable portable assets, its livestock and its preserved food, would be the first things they would try to save. Burying the butter would keep it safe until the danger had passed. Ultimately, we may never know the exact reason for any single deposit. The motivation could have changed over time and from place to place. A Bronze Age offering might have had a different purpose from an Iron Age food store. Perhaps some was for storage, some for the gods, and some for protection. The mystery is part of the allure. The silent, waxy lumps refuse to give up all their secrets, inviting us to imagine the universe of possibilities and the complex inner lives of the people who placed them there, connecting us through the enduring power of a shared human question: why? What is it like to encounter something that has been waiting in the earth for thousands of years? The sensory experience of bog butter is as unique as its history. When first unearthed, it doesn't look like the butter we spread on our toast. Its color is transformed from a creamy yellow to a pale off-white or grayish hue, sometimes stained brown by the tannins in the peat. The texture is no longer soft and pliable. It has become firm, crumbly, and waxy, more akin to a hard-aged cheese like Parmesan, or a block of paraffin wax. It is a ghost of butter, its form preserved but its substance utterly changed. The aroma is perhaps its most powerful and defining characteristic. It is not the sweet, creamy smell of fresh butter. The millennia spent steeping in the bog have imparted a new and complex scent profile. People who have handled it describe the smell as pungent, gamey, or feral. It has earthy, mossy notes from the peat, combined with a sharp, tangy odor that is a result of the chemical changes in the fat. Some have compared it to strong, aged cheeses, while others detect a hint of salami or other fermented meats. It is the smell of deep earth and slow, anaerobic decay, the scent of time itself. And what of the taste? This is the most daring question, and the one that requires the most caution. While chemically stable, bog butter is not sterile. It has spent thousands of years interacting with its environment. However, reports from antiquarians and curious individuals over the years have given us some clues. The flavor is described as being incredibly strong and challenging to the modern palate. Words like sharp, acrid, and like rancid fat are often used. It is certainly not something you would want to spread on a cracker. The taste is a powerful reminder that this was an object from a different world, with different tastes and different standards of what was edible. The transformation of the butter's flavor is a direct result of its long burial. The fatty acids that give fresh butter its pleasant taste have broken down over time. New compounds have formed, creating the pungent, gamey flavor profile. It's a process of controlled spoilage, similar in principle to the aging of cheese or the curing of meat, but stretched out over an immense time scale. The final product is a testament to the powerful, transformative chemistry of the bog. It takes something familiar and through a slow cosmic dance of molecules turns it into something entirely new and alien. The question of whether anyone has actually eaten ancient bog butter is a fascinating one. While modern museum curators and archaeologists would strongly advise against it for safety reasons, the historical record is filled with anecdotal accounts. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, when such finds were more common and less scientifically protected, curiosity often got the better of the finders. There are stories of turf cutters and farmers tasting a small piece of their discovery, often with mixed reactions. The general consensus was that it was far from a culinary delight, with a flavor too strong and pungent for most to enjoy. This curiosity has led some modern food enthusiasts and experimental archaeologists to try and replicate the process. They are not trying to eat the ancient, preserved butter, but to create their own version to understand the flavor transformation. One notable experiment was conducted by the Irish celebrity chef Kevin Thornton. He collaborated with a museum to bury his own high-quality salted butter in a bog to see how it would change over a period of months and years. His goal was to explore how the bog environment might have been used to deliberately age and flavor food, much like a modern chef might use a smokehouse or a curing cellar. The results of these modern experiments are illuminating. After just a few months in the bog, the butter's flavor profile begins to change dramatically. It starts to take on those telltale, earthy, funky notes. The texture also begins to firm up. These experiments show that the bog doesn't just preserve, it actively transforms. It is not a passive refrigerator but an active ingredient. It suggests that ancient people may have been burying butter not just to store it, but to deliberately develop these strong, gamey flavors which may have been highly prized at the time, much like strong blue cheese is today. This idea challenges our modern assumptions about taste. Our palates are accustomed to mild, fresh, and often sweet flavors. For ancient people whose diets could be monotonous, strong and pungent flavors might have been a welcome and exciting addition. The off flavors that we might describe as rancid could have been considered a delicacy. By recreating bog butter, we are not just engaging in a scientific experiment, we are undertaking a form of sensory archaeology, trying to taste the world as our ancestors did, and expanding our understanding of the universe of human flavor. Today, the final resting place for many of these ancient treasures is not the bog, but the climate-controlled halls of a museum. The National Museum of Ireland in Dublin holds the largest and most significant collection of bog butter in the world. Here, these silent witnesses to the past are carefully conserved and displayed for everyone to see. They are no longer just lumps of old fat, they have become powerful artifacts, tangible links that allow us to connect with our most distant history. Seeing a 2,000-year-old keg of butter behind glass is a profound experience. In the museum, each piece of bog butter is treated with the utmost care. Conservators work to ensure its stability now that it has been removed from its protective bog environment. They control the temperature and humidity to prevent it from drying out, cracking, or decaying. They also study it using a range of scientific techniques. Chemical analysis can determine if it's dairy or tallow-based, while radiocarbon dating can tell us its age with remarkable accuracy. Even the pollen grains trapped within the butter can be analyzed to tell us what plants were flowering when it was made, giving us a snapshot of the ancient environment. The containers are often as impressive as the butter itself. The museum's collection includes a stunning array of wooden vessels. There are buckets made from staves of yew or alder, held together with skilled joinery. There are churns carved from a single log, and even delicate bowls. These objects are masterpieces of ancient craftsmanship. They show us that the people who made them had a deep and intimate knowledge of wood and its properties. They were not primitive people. They were skilled artisans who created objects of both beauty and perfect function, designed to last for an eternity in the bog. Visiting these exhibits is like looking through a window into the daily life of ancient Ireland. You can stand before a keg of butter and imagine the person who churned it, the cow that gave the milk, and the hands that buried it. It makes the past feel incredibly close and personal. These are not the grand monuments of kings and warriors, but the humble, everyday objects of ordinary people. They tell a story of farming, of food, of family, and of faith. In the quiet halls of the museum, the bog butter continues to tell its ancient story, a silent, waxy echo from a lost world. In the grand cosmic story of humanity, Bog butter is more than just an archaeological curiosity. It is a profound symbol of our connection to the deep past and to the earth itself. Each discovery is a message in a bottle, sent across a sea of time not by accident, but by the deliberate actions of our ancestors in partnership with the unique geology of our planet. It represents a fundamental human impulse, the desire to preserve what is valuable, to provide for the future, and to connect with forces larger than ourselves. This impulse is as relevant today as it was 5,000 years ago. The story of bog butter teaches us about sustainability and ingenuity. In a world without complex technology, ancient people used their intimate knowledge of the natural world to solve problems. They understood that the bog, a landscape many of us might see as empty or useless, was in fact a powerful tool for preservation. They harnessed its unique chemical properties to create a food storage system that worked for millennia. This resourcefulness, this ability to work in harmony with the environment, is a powerful lesson for us in the modern age as we grapple with our own challenges of resource management. Furthermore, these finds ground our history in the real, tangible world of ordinary people. History is often told as a story of kings, queens, and battles, but bog butter tells a different story. It's the story of the farmer, the cook, the family. It speaks of the daily tasks of milking a cow, churning butter, and planning for the winter. It connects us to the ancient hearth, the center of the family home. It reminds us that the grand sweep of history is built upon the foundation of countless everyday lives, each with its own hopes, fears, and relationship with the cosmos. Ultimately, the enduring mystery of bog butter is what makes it so compelling. Was it food? Was it an offering? Was it a tribute? The fact that we cannot be certain invites us to wonder, to imagine, and to think critically about the past. It forces us to acknowledge the vastness of time and the limits of our knowledge. In every pale, waxy lump pulled from an Irish bog, we find not just ancient fat, but a reflection of our own enduring human quest for meaning, for preservation, and for a connection to the generations that came before us, all part of the same unfolding human story.